Hi, everyone. I hope you are having a good day or a good morning wherever you are. I'm just going to be turning on my webcam right now, so I hope you can see me for a bit. But my name is Victoria Lowe, and I am an outbound product manager for ITOM Health. And today I will be going through what's new in the November 2023 store release for ITOM Health. So I hope you are looking forward to the content that I'll be showing you today. And if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and I'll repeat that in a few slides when I go over some housekeeping items. But since everyone in the chat is talking about where exactly they're coming from, I am coming from Toronto, Canada. So if anyone is in Toronto right now or Canada, it's kind of getting cold. It hit about -5 today and I had to take out my winter jacket, which is always kind of a sad thing to do. But any other Canadians out there who understand Celsius, because I am very bad at converting to Fahrenheit, you will understand me. And sorry for anyone who works in Fahrenheit, because I don't remember the conversion, admittedly. But on that note, with the theme of me being cold because of Canada, I'm not feeling the best, but I will carry on with this presentation, but I will be turning off my camera after the agenda. Um, and yeah, winter definitely is coming. But yeah, let's get started. So we're going to be keeping this presentation kind of short and sweet at this point, because we have some new things, but not too many new things. But I'm sure that you're going to find this useful to you. So I just want to start off with a safe harbor notice for forward-looking statements, since we will be talking a little bit about some roadmap items, or one roadmap item specifically about what we want to do with generative AI and ITOM. That being said, because this is kind of a forward-looking statement, we don't want to commit to anything because sometimes plans change, roadmaps change, and all that stuff. So just want to kick off the presentation with this. Um, and I also wanted to let you know about joining us at future webinar exchanges. So if you want to see the schedule of other webinars that are happening, please scan this QR code right here. There's also a link in the chat about how you can also sign up for future webinars. And yeah, definitely keep an eye out for future ITOM What's New sessions, not just for health, but also for visibility. So definitely keep your eye out on this list. And some housekeeping right before we get started. So there is definitely going to be time at the end for Q&A. So if you have any questions, keep them in the Q&A. If any questions I see coming a lot in at a specific time, I may answer them during the session, just because we don't have too many items to cover for this quarter. So just keep that in mind, so that we can also, if we happen to miss your question, we could always get back to you at the end of the recording that happens today. And on the topic of recordings, the presentation will also be recorded and shared out on the ServiceNow community. So if you have any team members who may have missed this presentation, they want to attend, they can attend by or rewatch the recording on the ServiceNow community. And after the event, you will also be prompted to fill a short survey, and please do, because we would love your feedback. And since this is our first What's New session for ITOM, we want to know how we can make these sessions better for you so you can get more out of them and learn as much as you need for yourself. And I also just want to note, if you have any team members in Asia, Europe, or anywhere, or mostly Asia, we do have a session later today, or it would be early tomorrow for them local time, where they could attend while not staying up super late if they also want to hear from our other team member, Ada Cho, and hear and present the same content that I'm presenting to you today live. And yeah, now moving on to the agenda. For today, I will be going through the product evolution, then the overview of the major new features and enhancements, an overview of the minor new features and enhancements, as well as covering what's going to be end of life and sunset capabilities to help prepare you for any steps you may need to take as we approach these timelines, as well as some major feature and minor feature overviews, which is just more information on the overview of the features that I'm going to talk about in 2 slides from now. So looking here, we can see the product evolution. We're showing Quebec to Vancouver. Utah was a pretty big year or pretty big release that was earlier this year, where we had a lot of enhancements and new features surrounding alerts. As you can see, we just introduced alert tags, which if you haven't already gone into alert tags, definitely something you should look into. I'm working on a blog article on it right now, so you can learn a bit more, hopefully in the next week or so, about them, as well as updates to metric intelligence and our extension of ITOM Health, which is health log analytics. While in Vancouver, the main focus was the AIOps experience. So if you haven't already heard of the AIOps experience, it is an intuitive set of capabilities that we've come up with in ITOM in order to help and improve the efficiency, and productivity of operators who need to manage alerts, manage integrations, as well as looking at dashboards without having to have many out-of-the-box dashboards, which is not ideal. We've also had some more enhancements around alert tags, which I just mentioned. And we started looking into how we can integrate generative AI into the suite of ITOM, specifically ITOM Health. But for this specific presentation, we'll be going over through Event Sync, which is also referred to as the Now and Now connector, the improvement to HLA scale, which we're calling HLA 2.0, as well as giving you some insight into what we're planning on doing with generative AI in ITOM Health, as well as covering some ACCM enhancements, specifically for an Azure check, and the enhancements to the advanced promotion engine, which was introduced earlier this year as well. And I'll explain a bit more about each of these topics later in case some of these may be new to you. So an overview of these features that I was talking about is first off Event Sync. So Event Sync, which I'll elaborate more on later, is a way to be able to connect the events between the multiple instances that you may have on your environment without having to necessarily redeploy these connectors on every single instance that you have. So this enables easier testing of different scenarios without having to redeploy an integration on every single non-production server that you have. Of course, there are other use cases, but this is something that we thought would be very useful specifically for these scenarios, but don't feel boxed in by the use case that we are talking about mostly today, as well as generative AI and how we are going to be using it to enrich alerts. And in terms of Health Log Analytics 2.0 scale, we're going to start using Kubernetes to enable a higher throughput of logs. And I'll explain a bit more how we're doing that later, as well as we've had some new enhancements to the advanced promotion engine, which directly relates to metric intelligence if you're using it. And we have a new Azure ACCM check to basically reduce the amount of checks that you would have to do previously in order to monitor your Azure environment. And here's an overview of the end-of-life capabilities, as well as sunset. So sunset means that the capabilities are still supported until end of life, but end of life has not yet approached. So right now we have Operator Workspace. If you're using Operator Workspace in your organization currently, by the time it is Washington, it'll stop being supported. So if you have any issues with the Operator Workspace when this is released in Q1 of next year, at this point, we'll no longer be supporting any requests for this, as well as the Event Management mobile app for the timing of Xanadu, which is the end of next year in Q3 of 2024. In terms of end-of-life capabilities, which are capabilities that are just not supported anymore, some of you may still be on Utah or a previous release, and in that case, if you're using Advanced Insights Explorer, by the time you pass through your Utah upgrade, if you're not already there, it'll no longer be supported, as well as the metrics intelligence connectors, specifically for SCOM. but we are working on a new SCOM connector coming soon or just in the future, so keep a lookout for that. And in terms of the event management mobile app, we are looking to come up with a replacement for that sometime next year as well. So starting off with Event Sync, we have the Now on Now connector. And this connector that we have come out with is a way to push and pull events from one ServiceNow instance to as many other ServiceNow instances as you want to. This enables you to, again, test and evaluate features that you want to in your sub-production environments. For example, if you want to see how exactly your events are being processed using new rules that you may not want to implement yet into your production environment, or see how exactly your event processing would react to a unpopulated CMDB in that case, and you want to experiment with that. This enables you to do that without having to redeploy the integrations for all your different monitoring tools on each individual other ServiceNow instance apart from your production instance. And the process is really simple for setting this up, and I'll be going over this in the next few slides. And also, just in terms of actually getting access to this feature, you should be updating your event management connector store app. So if you're not on the latest version, which came out on November 2nd, so just 6 days ago, you won't have this feature. So just keep that in mind, but it's a pretty easy upgrade. So I do suggest you do that. So in terms of the setup for Event Sync, we can see right here on this page, and I'll be showing you a short demo right after all this, but all you have to do is go into the Event Sync configuration list. And when you do, you'll be prompted when you create a new Event Sync configuration to input the URL, the credentials, mark it as active, and make sure to test the connection. And then when you're done submitting the connection. And at the point that you have all your connectors set up, you can then see that there's going to be a new scheduled job available in the scheduled job list, where it is called the Event Management Event Sync job. And there you can change the interval or change the runtime of the specific Event Sync configuration that we have just introduced. So you can change it to a minute, which we see in the screenshot, or you can change it to 5 minutes or whatever time you'd like to specifically. And again, this is the new job in the scheduled jobs table, as you can see in the screenshot right here. And at the point that you do set this up, please trust that these are two separate instances. I just didn't want to share the URLs because that's kind of weird. But in the case where you do actually set up the instances, we can see right here that the screenshot was actually taken at the exact same time, but I just split it so it looks a bit cleaner. But in the original instance where we originally set up all the connectors directly connecting to the specific instance, I set up an Event Sync connector and connected it to this instance right here. And at the point where I made sure to refresh both the lists, we can see that the exact same alerts down to time, description, source, node have been transferred over to the target instance right over here. And you may notice that there's also these two events that haven't been transferred over, forwarded to the secondary instance. And that is because of the 1 minute interval. So at the point when about a minute passes, then these two events will start showing up in the target instance as well. But to make this a bit more clear, I'll be showing you a demo in 2 slides from now. But as a fact sheet and just a way to just get all the information that you need to be able to even use this or sell that you want to use this in your own environments, we added it so that it can drive faster time to value for your organization when testing and playing with any events in your environment without having to impact your production environment. And anyone who would use this could be anyone in your teams that operate and have to set up all the integrations in your environments. And to activate it, again, you have to activate the newest version of the Event Management connector in the ServiceNow store. And the required role be able to set up the credentials and send these alerts off or events, sorry, off into the target instance is that the target instance needs a user with the role of event management integration. So just keep that in mind. And then in terms of accessing the table for event sync, it can be accessed through this line right here in case you're having any issues with that. And this won't require any additional licenses to your current licensing structure for ITOM. And yeah, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get into a demo of event sync.
So now I have two instances opened. The original instance where I'll be setting up everything on the Now connector, and the target instance where I'm setting all the instances to. So this is just the current events that we have coming in. So starting off from the event sync configuration, we first just have to have probably read the blue box if you're doing this for the first time. But that being said, we just need to input the instance URL and then the credentials. And then once we do this, we just need to test the connection to make sure that it actually is able to connect to this target instance, and also make sure to mark it as active, because if you don't mark it as active, the configuration for the connector won't be actually running. So once we have all this information and we save it, it's going to look more like this, where we can see all the names and the target instance is already in the specific connector. And speaking about scheduled jobs, now you can see that the event sync job is a new scheduled job that's available under system definition. And once we click into it, we can see that we can change the interval as to when exactly or how often exactly you want to be able to run this configuration, the event sync configuration between each of these instances that you have set up. And you can also change the runtime, how often it runs, or if it's just a one-off run. And you can obviously manually execute it if you'd like to. And then now, since we've set it up with the interval of 1 minute, there's always going to be about a 1 minute lag between all these events. But let's see what we have right now. So again, this is one instance, and we've linked it to this target instance right here. And in the most smooth, oh, okay, great. Didn't require too much staring this time. We can see that right now there haven't been really any events that have come in on the original instance. So we can see that basically exactly these three Zabbix events have been synced with this second instance right here, where all the fields are the same, including the time. So time of event, description, node. But if I were to refresh this, and now we have some new ITOM agent events coming in, we can see that it's still running at a 1 minute interval of synchronization because it's not yet reached the target instance because it's been less than 1 minute since this new event has come in, or these new sets of events have come in. So at the same time, if you do have, oh, and here they all are now because it's been about a minute. And at the same time, if you do have actual connectors deployed on this target instance, obviously all these events from this target instance will still be populated in the event table as well. So that is it for my demo of event syncs.
And thanks for listening to my demo that I pre-recorded. I hope you didn't mind that, but that basically demonstrates what exactly Event Sync is and how easy it is to set up. And I see that we got a question in the chat about Event Sync and how to set it up. So in the case that you want to set up Event Sync, you need to ensure that the event management connector, the latest version is on the instance where you are sending the alerts from. So the original instance, not the target instance, because it just leverages an API that's existed on ServiceNow and event management for quite some time. So we just need to make sure that all the capabilities are at least available on the original instance side. And I will just hit answer live so I don't potentially re-answer this question again. But yeah, if you have a follow-up question to that, Amy, please feel free to ask again in the Q&A and I'll be sure to answer. And yeah, that's just a reminder for anyone else. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the Q&A and I'll answer it either at the end of the session or if we're running good on time, I'll answer it during each section that I'll be going through. So yeah, next up, we are going to be talking about generative AI and how we are going to be using it to enrich alerts. So often right now, when you get alerts in, they're directly processed from your events. And there can be a lot of random codes that most operators may not be able to understand, where you likely have to be a subject matter expert in the area of what you're monitoring to necessarily understand what the code is that you're getting and what it means and how it actually impacts your system. So through using generative AI, we want to be able to enrich alerts to make them more comprehensible and make the description more usable for a wider array of operators who may be managing your alerts. So this is enabling the shift left of support where you no longer necessarily always have to rely on the subject matter experts. You're able to then empower the other levels of support to resolve these alerts earlier and without having to escalate, driving up the mean time to resolution and hopefully also reducing the number of incidents that are even open as a result of receiving some alerts. So we can see right here in the screenshot that in our coming soon release of the phase 1 of generative AI, we are going to first summarize the alerts with a improved description, as well as a suggested root cause and suggested remediation actions that you can take. And at the point when you read these as the operator or whoever is looking at the express list table, will be able to rate the comment and tell the large language model, which is also just our generative AI model, if what we provided you, we being the model, was actually useful in helping you resolve and close the specific alert that it was generated for. And I just want to note that also the specific feature that we will be coming out with soon will be in Express List specifically. So if you aren't already on Express List, this may be some gentle encouragement to start trying to use it. It's very easy to set up, and as long as you have alerts coming in, you'll be able to already see the live alert list be populated. And right now we can see that this is basically the flow of resolutions explained, or just how events are processed, as well as logs and metrics right now, where we analyze the events coming in. We're also looking at the logs and metrics, and they get directly processed into alerts. And through some correlation, we have our multiple correlation techniques such as CMDB, alert rules, alert tags, and so on. We then group the alerts, and then we enrich the alerts with any additional information. For example, if you do any event field mapping or all that stuff and linking it to previous incidents, and again, any potential change requests that may have impacted it. So that's the current flow of this all. And in our first version of generative AI being implemented in ITOM Health, is that at the point of going from grouped alerts and alerts to enriched alerts, instead of enriching it with only the information that we have within the instance itself, historical information, for example, we're going to be using our internal generative AI model. So again, it's going to be an internal large language model where it'll be fed by the alerts that we have coming in. And over time, it'll learn and understand what issues are occurring and how exactly the model can suggest how you can resolve it and understand the root cause most effectively. And at the point when you receive all this information from the model, then there are user annotations. So that's providing feedback to the model to learn more and improve over time. So that is the first version, and stay tuned to learn more about what we'll have coming out for generative AI in the future. But just want to put this on your radar of what we will be coming out with soon for ITOM Health. And next up, I will be talking about the Health Log Analytics, otherwise known as HLA 2.0 scale update. So previously, our architecture supported 60K logs per second, but with this new architecture update, we now support 240,000, which is a lot, logs per second, while simultaneously increasing efficiency and resilience. And to do this, we're now leveraging Kubernetes, where we have the ITOM gateway, which is leveraging, again, Kubernetes, where instead of directly passing the logs into a load balancer and then into the AI engine, which we also call Occultus, we're leveraging Kafka as a queue in order to queue up all the logs and throw them into the AI engines as there is capacity for. So by being able to have multiple AI engines now and using Kafka as a queuing method, we're able to increase the scale by fourfold or threefold. Sorry, I think it was 80K logs per second previously. And by leveraging Kubernetes, this also improves the reliability of HLA in general. Otherwise, the side where you're inputting the logs through push or pull connectors, as well as the log storage and metric base, and the UI on your side will be the same. But for organizations that may require this larger scale, it is now something that we are able to support ourselves for customers potentially like you who need a larger scale. And next up, we have the Advanced Promotion Engine enhancements. So if you don't already know what Advanced Promotion Engine is, Advanced Promotion Engine is a feature of metric intelligence where you're able to set specific conditions for metrics that you have coming into your instance that should be promoted to IT alerts. So there are two separate types of alerts in this case. There are anomaly alerts where through metric intelligence, we've noticed some spikes or some unusual behavior in the typical behavior of the specific metrics of ACI that you have coming in. And in the case where you know if it reaches these specific conditions and the specific anomaly alert gets triggered, then you want it to be promoted to an actual IT alert. So these are the typical alerts that you see in your alert list currently, or if you're already using Express List, you would see it in your Express List. So that is what Advanced Promotion Engine is, basically just setting up the conditions in order to promote any of your metric anomalies to regular IT alerts. And currently we're looking at it from the perspective where we would always assume that the anomaly warning or the criticality would automatically be promoted into the IT alert. But now we're making it so that instead of automatically assigning the criticality and priority to the promoted IT alert, we're putting it in the work notes instead of putting it in the description itself. As well as previously, in the case when some anomaly alerts were triggered, sometimes the IT alert that would be promoted from the alert anomaly would then disappear at the time once it was resolved. But now we made it so that if you want to do some further investigation after the fact that an anomaly alert is resolved, after it's promoted to an IT alert, you can go back and that information will still be available to you as to what IT alert was related to that specific anomaly alert if it was open in the first place. And if you are using Advanced Promotion Engine and you wanted to get these new features, or if you just want to start using Advanced Promotion Engine at all, please look at the Metric Intelligence Store app and make sure that you are on the newest version. And that is how you can get access to Advanced Promotion Engine and its enhancements that have come up recently. Definitely something you should look into if you are using Metric Intelligence. And last but not least, I'll be talking about the ACCM Azure check, specifically a performance enhancement for this. So previously, you would have to perform multiple background checks for your Azure VMs, but now with our new check that we have for ACCM, we're able to monitor thousands of Azure VMs using a single agent as opposed to running several thousand checks, which is not ideal and not efficient at all. And to do this, we're utilizing a Azure Batch API where Azure VMs can effectively be monitored. And so this makes it so that it's a lot more efficient for users who are setting up ACCM, and you don't have to worry about going through all of your individual Azure VMs anymore. And if you are more interested in the technical details, we're also able to do this by using the resource ID from Cloud Discovery. And again, if you want to get this new feature, please update your Metric Intelligence Store app. And if while you're doing this, you didn't realize that you didn't have Advanced Promotion Engine yet, it's a great time to start using it. But on that note, that is it for what's new in ITOM for this quarter. Thank you all for listening. For me, for the past half hour. Wow, a half hour of me talking. I hope it was of interest to you and it was useful for you.